Have you ever had this persistent problem that you have tried to change many times, but for whatever reason you were never able to completely change? You were not even able to make a tint in that specific problem, and you remained stable in a world that's always constant. And I think when stuff like that happens, only people start to say that I can't change. And that's what happened to me. Or at least that's, in a sense, kind of what I experienced throughout most my life. Throughout most my life, I tried so hard to become someone different. I tried so hard to change all my problems, and do all of that to become a better person, become someone completely different, become someone who isn't me, and I always failed. It felt like, after like the 100, 200 time, it just felt like it was an impossible task, and there was no point in doing that. So it did feel impossible. So as a result, I kind of, in a sense, subconsciously gave up trying to change. And I made fake attempts to change, and then it kind of slowed down the progress even more to this change. And it did not feel pleasant, to say the least. In reality, it felt really, really bad. And yeah, however, it's been a couple of years since then, and I realized some things. Actually, I realized a lot of things. The first thing that I realized is that it wasn't that I wasn't changing, but rather it was more that I wasn't changing in the manner that I wish to change in. So I'll explain it like this. The way I see it, all we are is change. All we are is that we change constantly. It's just a part of our nature. Our brains make all of these neural connections, make all of these different neurons and fires of all of these chemicals at every single second that we are alive. Why does it do that? Because it does that so we can function more properly. So the way I see it, all we are is change. We change every single day. We process information, we gather information, and we change every single day. However, the reason why it feels as if we can't change is that we are not changing in the ways that we find important, or rather, we don't change in ways that are sufficient for us. Rather, the way in which we change is not sufficient enough for us to even consider it something meaningful. And I think that's what a lot of people face. They do change. A lot of people do change, but most of the time it's not that it's just that they're not changing in the ways that they perceive to be the best for them. And that's where people get stuck. That's where I got stuck, at least. And yeah, it's not a pleasant feeling, to say the least. It's not a pleasant scenario to be in. And I was in that scenario a long, long time ago, and honestly, the way I got out of it is very simple. This is not a motivational video, this is not an advice giving video, it's more like what I personally did. And it's very, very simple. What I did was, I kind of, this is, what I did was I stopped lying to myself. And the reason why I say that, and what I mean when I say that, is Okay, I'll give you an example. Have you ever lied to yourself before? You have said that you wanted to do this thing, you wanted to achieve this goal, but when you achieve that goal, you realize that that goal was not what you exactly wanted. Yeah, it's kind of something like that. In a sense, in those kinds of scenarios, you just lie to yourself or you tricked yourself into believing something other than what was actually happening. And that's kind of what I mean when I say not to lie to yourself, or rather, I stopped lying to myself. I started noticing, I started being aware of what was actually happening with me rather than coming into conclusions. Let's say that I was I really wanted to achieve this goal, then I would just ask myself, okay, so why do I want to achieve this goal? And then obviously I try to make conclusions about it. I just think, well, achieving this goal, I can achieve all of these things, and it can help my family, I can help myself, and all of that. And then I would just ask myself, okay, what would achieving all of those things allow me to be? And then I just thought about it and I realized it was not that I wanted the money or anything, it's just that I wanted happiness. And then I just thought about it, happiness. What's stopping me from having happiness now? That was just a simple question. And then I thought about it even more. And then I realized it was not that I wanted happiness from these goals, but rather I wanted to run away from the pain of life that I was currently feeling back then. And I wanted something to chase towards. So it was more of a way to run away from pain. So no wonder why these goals that we achieve never feel complete when we achieve them, because we are still in pain even after achieving those goals. Or at least we are still in pain internally. And that is why it feels so half-assed, or rather, why it feels so pointless. So I started to stop, like, I started to decrease the amount of lies I told myself, and then it just kind of went away on its own. Over time, I realized more about the world, I realized more about myself, and then eventually it got to a point where I was actually really satisfied with my life. Yet, even though I was satisfied, I still wanted more, in the sense that I wanted to improve more as a person. So that's kind of where I am right now in life. I'm very happy. I genuinely am very happy. Yes, there are times when I feel anxious. Yes, there are times when I feel scared. But for the most part, I am very satisfied. Yet I'm still doing my best to improve. Am I the strongest person in the world? No. However, the way I see it, there are two kinds of people. There are people who do their best to improve every single day, and there are people who have given up. And I think if you are the former and you do your best to improve every single day, even though it might not pay off, even though if you fail a lot, I still think you are strong. I think that deserves a lot of commendatory, that deserves a lot of praise. Because some goals might feel very impossible, some outcomes, some destinations might feel very impossible to reach, and you will fail a lot in attempting to reach those destinations. However, I think you will learn more and you will gain more from those failures than someone who has succeeded in reaching a smaller goal. I believe that you will gain more from a lot more failures, from aiming to achieve an impossible goal, than someone who has succeeded in achieving a smaller goal. So yeah. So if you're watching this video, I wish you the best of luck. And just to let you know that I don't know who you are, I don't know who's watching this, I have literally no idea about you. I don't know from which part of the world you are, but I believe in you. I truly do. So yeah. Bye.